Hi guys, it's Gaff here in the hill, and today I wanted to talk about your overcoming your giants. Here's the view from where I am today. Glider overhead. There's a Wallace monument in the distance there. You can just see it on top of that far hill. That's it there. It's called the Wallace Monument. And the hill we're on is actually known as the Sleeping Giant. And I wanted to make a video about your inner giant. I've been thinking about that fairy tale, the Brave Little Tailor. It's fairy tale, a Grimm's fairy tale. Highly recommend reading it. And these fairy tales are incredible when you start to get into the wisdom behind them. So the what happens is the first part at the beginning, the tailor's sitting there and he's feeling quite inspired, and a jam seller comes down the street shouting jams for sale, and he gets her to come over to his window. His shop's up on steps, so she comes up and he says to her, can I buy some of your jam or marmalade she has as well? And the thing is, he wants different parts of different jam, so kind of annoys the lady a bit, but she gives him it anyway, and he puts it in a jar, and then he spreads it thickly on his bread, and he waits because he's in the middle of sewing something. So he notices these flies coming down from the ceiling towards his bread, and he manages to hit them, and he managed to kill 7 with one blow. And he thinks, wow, that's amazing. So there's another glider. What's that? Flying by, very graceful. He manages to hit 7 with one blow, and then he makes his belt up, right? And it's got seven with one blow written on it. And then he decides that, of course, he eats his sandwich and then goes off, and he takes this hard piece of cheese that he's got left with him. And also, when he's walking out the door, a bird flies in, is banging against the window, and he puts that in his pocket. And he decides to go off and let people know how amazing he is from his 7 with one blow belt. And he heads over the hill, and he comes to this clearing where there's this giant actually sleeping. And the giant, he wakes him up, and the giant notices on his belt 7 with one blow, and he thinks, oh, I bet he's not as tough as what I am. And then they have this competition. First of all, he gets a stone and he squeezes it so hard, the giant squeezes it so hard that water comes out of it. And then the tailor gets his old bit of cheese out his pocket and pretends it's a stone and squeezes that and water comes out of it. And the giant's very impressed. And then the giant says, "Oh, I bet you can't do this." And he tosses a stone way miles into the distance. The giant pretends he's picking up a stone, but actually takes the bird out of his pocket and tosses that, and the bird just flies off. The giant's so impressed with that. And then the third task is the giant says, "Oh, I bet you can't do this," and rips up a massive oak tree and says, "Alright, let's carry an end each and see who's toughest that way." And the tailor manages to convince the giant that he'll take the branch end, and instead of carrying, he just sits on top of it in the branches. The giant looks back but doesn't notice and thinks he's actually carrying it. And the giant keeps on walking through the woods with his massive oak tree until he gets so tired he can't hardly walk, and then has to submit. And basically, the tailor goes, "Oh, I'm not even tired yet," and he's just sitting on top of the tree. And then after that, he goes off with the giant because he's become kind of a companion with him, and goes to stay with he meets two other giants, and goes to stay the night with them in a cave. And the little tailor's pretty awake, and instead of sleeping in his bed, he rests in the corner out of his bed. And unfortunately, it's lucky for him because the giants conspire to kill him because of him being so tough and strong. They're thinking that, so they get an iron rod and beat the bed, thinking they've killed him. And then the little tailor goes off and he comes to a kingdom. But that's the next part of the story. So I just wanted to break down these little bits about the giant in this story. I think one of the things for me that is a giant in my life is, you know, when you get these kind of dark days where everything seems heavy and negative and really difficult, and it all just seems all connected and like impossible. Well, the giants are a bit like that. That's one sort of a giant. When you look at the symbolism in the story, the tailor represents this connecting things, joining things together. So it's kind of like a sacred symbolism. I'll just show you these gliders again. Yeah, so it's like a sacred symbolism of connecting things and becoming wise through the connections. And then you've got the jam, which symbolises this kind of sticky consciousness, like it's like an inspired consciousness, but it it attracts these beings, these flies, and flies are these, they're kind of hardened forms, hardened kind of forms of death, which are very much connected to, maggot, like smelly meat and shit and what have you. So very much connected to this kind of death force and removing it. And that's like their focus. So they're kind of like, in a way, they symbolise 7 forms of evil that he's become wise to. And he puts that on his belt, and then he goes over, and it's like the first thing that he uses is his hard cheese, which is like when you think about people say it's like hard cheese, but it kind of symbolises the problems in your life, like hard cheese. And he uses that to advantage by squeezing the juice out of it and pretending it's a stone. So he's like, there's a great book called The Obstacle is the Way, and it's a bit like seeing your life like that. It's like kind of finding the healing qualities in your problems. So transforming the illness into a kind of healing, whether it's a soul illness or a physical illness. It's that ability to transform it into a healing process. And that was like that symbolism of working with the giant in that way. If you think about the giant being these kind of negative, heavy forces. And then the next one is the bird. It's I believe it's a sparrow that he's caught. The reason it's like that is because they're kind of brown and quite insignificant, but they're actually amazingly detailed brown when you look into it. And it's like this power of the thinking to transform. So the thinking's got this ability, even the kind of boring, colourful thinking, and particularly that type of thinking, actually, the kind of normalised thinking, is its ability to transform your life through its ability to lift up into the air, the weight. It's like a magic, and he uses that as his second thing against the giant. And then on the third trial with the first giant, he connects with oak, and that symbolises this. It's connected to Mars, the oak tree, and it symbolises this kind of warrior spirit. But instead of using force, he doesn't use the warrior force. He uses, he transforms it and sits on top of the tree. So it's like letting go within the warrior. So the warrior has the archetypal warrior to be truly powerful in time. Obviously there's physical strength, but the other thing is like the ability to let go of things to enable the manifestation to happen. And that's exactly what he's got in that working, that symbolism with the oak. And then he goes into the cave, right? Story's brilliant, isn't it? The fairy tale. I love all of the Grimm's fairy tales are like this. So he goes into the cave, and there's 3 giants, so that's three sleeping aspects of your consciousness that can be destructive. And then instead of sleeping in the cave, he kind of goes off into the corner and is awake. So it's like being awake in the unconscious gives you the power over the unconscious and how you want to direct it. So, and that's how he escapes and doesn't get killed. So it's amazing that, isn't it? That, you know, the power of being conscious in the unconscious. So I'm going to leave it there. I'll just show you the view one last time. And do post in the comments about your inner giants, what you think your ones are. Yeah, think about them, because when they're unconscious, that's when the problems start. But if you make them conscious, you can really free yourself. So I'll leave you with that thought, and post in the comments, and remember to like and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's the view to finish with.